What did your job want you to hide from customers? I worked at an art glass store that sold glass. Mostly made in China with very few actual nice pieces. We were told to peel the made in China stickers off. If anyone asked where the glass came from, we would say New Jersey, which is where the supplier was from. I always felt like Danny DeVito in Matilda changing the odometer on his used cars. I worked at McDonald's and they taught me how to pinch the fry carton just right while putting the fries into them so that it looked full, but actually wasn't. I only had one customer call me out on it. He shook the fries out into his bag and poured them back into the fry carton himself, and it only filled up halfway. So I had to give him more fries. I was impressed and embarrassed. It's been 7 years and I can still see his face. Restaurant that we would reheat sauces for several days, and depending on how many times this had happened, they would look and taste completely different. I told my friends and family to not eat there as there was plenty of sketchy shit going on there. I work at a shoe store, and we recently got a shipment of clearance sandals. Aka years old sandals they had shoved in some warehouse. As I was putting them out, I noticed some had green stuff all over them. Mold. We were instructed by corporate to wipe it off and sell them anyway. Luckily my manager is sane and refuses to put out the moldy shoes. But still some sketchy shit. Worked for a shady computer repair company that took in electronic recycling. He would charge $1 an inch to dispose of old CRT monitors and then toss them into the dumpster. This was just one of the many shady things he did. Edit. A lot of people are saying they'll just toss their stuff in the trash. Please don't. There are legit places out there that will dispose of electronics responsibly. Look for companies that are R2 certified. Worked at a bike rent shop where we told customers we sanitized the helmets we rented via heat treatment. Heat treatment consisted of having some sorry as high schooler run up to the top of the building, essentially the attic of this old wooden structure, and just leave them in boxes. Or, if they were wet, hung from nails to drip and dry. I've worked for 2 separate escape rooms. Everyone who didn't get out got really close. Usually we'll show you what you missed if there's only a few puzzles left. If we don't show you anything, it's because we didn't want to make you feel bad. I never want to go because I suck at puzzles. I would probably wait for the other people to solve the stuff for me. You never know. You might surprise yourself and find one that you're inherently good at. You're also not totally alone, as there's always someone monitoring your progress to help if when you need it. If you're still not sure, every team needs someone to find all the pieces. I hope you give them a try. The cup of soup and bowl of soup were the exact same size. People would pay more for a bowl and just get a cup of soup in a bowl that was shorter and wider at the bottom than the cup. Yep. The same thing at the cafe I work at, except it's the adults and children's size milkshakes. I used to work in a jewelry shop that sold cheap Chinese sheet silver gold painted plastic jewelry. None of it being real metal. But every sale I had to upsell one of these $5 polishing cloths. You can't polish a turd, the only thing this cloth did was rub the cheap paint off the plastic faster. I felt like such a con artist. Where all the stuff is. I worked at a supermarket and we regularly reorganized the aisles. Put the bread on the one end of the shop and half a year later on the other end. Things like that. The more items the customer sees while in the store, looking for items that have been moved, the more money they spend. Worked at a nursery, plants. Not babies, that sold Christmas trees in winter. We had to have 2 employees per customer in the lot at all times. One to talk to and distract the customer. The other to hold up the particular tree they were interested in and shake their ads out while said customer was distracted. Basically these people were buying $50 rat nests to put in their house. I worked in the vegetable seed industry. Some varieties that were exclusive to certain customers were just repackaged and renamed seed of an existing variety. If something was underselling, they just changed the name. We wrote the description and claimed it was a better sister line. It was always funny though when customers demanded the old line because the new one wasn't as good. We'd just shrug. Changed the label back to the old name and off it went. The cheesecakes are not frozen. They are deeply chilled, which from what I have gathered is an industry term roughly equating to frozen AF. Plus a bunch of other stuff. Besides hiding how much we're marking up equipment, those of us in the field have to actively hide all of the duck-ups that happened back in the office. Oh. It's on back order. It will be in next week. Means that asshole Bob forgot to order it. Or we're actually on credit hold with that company because our customers don't pay us fast enough. Yeah. There was a lot of traffic today. Means that asshole Steve gave us the wrong address and failed to mention the lack of a loading dock. I machine embroider shirts for different companies. If the stitching doesn't line up, such as an outline around a logo, and the colors allow for it, we have a bucket full of markers to recolor the tread. Even going as far as coloring the shirt that shows through to make it look cohesive. The best ones are Sharpie or dry erase markers. My uncle used to work in a restaurant many decades ago as a teenager. It was his job each morning to strain the cockroaches out of the pancake syrup containers on each table. That's extremely disgusting. We Google everything. We don't need to hide it. I've literally done it in front of customers. They often don't know duck all what's going on. There is value in knowing the right terms and search patterns to use. Way back at my very first job I worked at a hardware store. They had this really nice engraved hatchet with a leather sheath. The store manager told me they never sold a single one. Local chain in a small town. Most people weren't looking for anything fancy. Although he did have several stolen. The inventory was on automatic order for any item sold or marked down. So when he put it in the system as stolen, they would always send him a new one to be pocketed again. He took to hiding the item in the back storeroom. That's right. My job actually was hiding product from customers in back. Edit, since people keep asking. No. I don't remember what brand the item was. It was really more of a camp axe than a hatchet. Had a hickory handle. And some etching following the profile of the head. I tried looking it up on their website but couldn't find it. This was over a decade ago. So that's all I've got for you. The decaf at Burger King isn't actually decaf. It's just the regular coffee. But watered down. Just like most things in Burger King. When I still worked there, Staples charged $164 basically running Malwarebyte and CCleaner and called it virus removal. And I think most people know $160 was bullshit for that. But it was always the old people that got screwed with that BS. Worked at a restaurant that also did catering. People would come in for tastings regularly for things like weddings and we'd give them samples of some of our food. The big thing at these tastings was the cheesecake. Which was made in-house to be served in the restaurant and was pretty great. What we didn't tell them was that for catering events, we bought pre-made cheesecakes instead. I think they were Marie calendars. Basically we'd sell them on our cheesecake then give them something less good that was easier cheaper for us. Honestly, we were stretching ourselves a little thin with catering. It was always a mess trying to get all the food prepared as well as run the restaurant. We had one chef who worked every single day and the waiters doubled as caterers. Sometimes working long wait and catering shifts back to back. Daily Deal Company. The fact that the third-party Android tablets we were selling on our site for Christmas weren't even in production yet. We were basically just taking their money for that product. There were parents who were super excited to find a great deal for their kid during the holiday rush and I felt like shit having to sell it to them. I was working customer service and they were usually calling to see how legit the product was. I left soon afterwards. Is it hard to see why? So I wasn't able to see the full consequence of that deal. My old boss invented a fake employee that he would blame all mistakes on when speaking with customers. Once in a while, he would tell the customers he fired that imaginary employee and then come up with a new name for a new imaginary employee that would be the new sucker. A burrito chain that I worked at was on Undercover Boss. In the episode, The chain wouldn't let ABC show the fact that our guacamole comes from avocado paste, not fresh avocados. I worked at a high-end resort. Like $2,000 person a night at the time. They billed themselves as eco, but did things that definitely weren't. Probably the most enjoyable were the slop dumping runs, where we would go and dump kitchen scraps in the ocean. The idea was to not have bears get into it. So we'd freeze it in 5-gallon buckets and go dump it in the ocean. We used the same spot and had a crab trap set up there. Because this stuff attracted crabs like crazy. We were instructed to not dump slop on guest arrival days though. Since there was a bit of a slick formed, who knew rich people food was so fatty? Anyway. One day we forgot and dumped a load on arrivals day. When one of the guests commented on the slick, I blamed the fish farms nearby. They have since changed their ways and run a pretty good show now. But back in the day, we were eco in front, redneck in the back. We don't wash the blankets every day. Your AC probably has mildew mold in it unless you have a full-size AskReddit. Also, we don't vacuum your floor very well. And not everything at break is fresh cooked. The turnover rate is insane. The leadership is a cult. If you get in trouble, they cut your pay in half and make you work twice as hard, then fire you. Do not buy produce from Walmart. Just don't do it. We get a fresh shipment every day. 1/4 of which is already rotten. I don't mean a little mold. I mean rotten to the point of putrefaction. These items tend to be on top. So, everything below them has been fouled by a cascade of slurry. The next quarter has clearly been dropped on the floor of the warehouse and then hastily placed back together. Blueberries and strawberries, intermingled with reckless abandon. The third quarter is completely smashed. Now, Walmart is not known for its stringent hiring policies. But the people who build and ship these pallets have so little understanding of how physics works that I find 6 15-pounds, 7 kilograms, boxes of apples precariously balanced on a single veggie tray. The final quarter is perfectly edible. But it all goes to the floor. Because duck you guys. Edit, thank you. I meant to write 15 pounds. I just made a stupid error. I worked in car rental in Ireland. We weren't supposed to sell the extra insurance to Spanish or Italian customers. Because they are not known for being great drivers and often damage the cars. Much more profitable to only sell insurance to people who won't use it. At one spa it was the clocks. They didn't want clients to see what time it was because they would make us cut their massage sessions, so they didn't want them to know they were being cheated. At my last spa, our aromatherapy we charged extra for wasn't even real aromatherapy. My boss didn't want to pay the money for real essential oils, so they bought fragrance oil or worse. Flavors used to usually make lip balm. In fast food, drive-through comes first because they are the majority of customers. If you come in, you'll get your food between us serving drive-through. They've asked a few girls on their periods to keep working. Also, we're not supposed to talk about the prostitution that goes on. The club doesn't make anything from it and aren't doing anything illegal. But we're not supposed to draw attention to it anyway. 4-star hotels are slowly but surely turning into 2-star hotels, but double the price and a different brand. Almost all hotel managers employ the same 0-hour minimum wage, zero experience, don't give a duck, because why should they? Employees, and try to run the business with as few staff on shift as possible. This means that the quality of service you get is going to be basically the same at the Hilton or the Holiday Inn, because both places are employing identically skilled staff. That's not even mentioning all the other corners being cut at basically every hotel everywhere. Most of the time it feels like a pure goddamn miracle the place is still standing by the end of your shift. I cannot ducking wait to leave this toxic hole of an industry. That our credit card had about a 24% interest rate. I had to tell them they'd get approved in 2 minutes. But honestly, over half the time their credit was too bad for them to get approved. Waste of their time, but I just made some extra money. We don't have quality control to make sure people's Medicaid doesn't get screwed up by our grossly incompetent employees who are too dense to comprehend eligibility rules. Law firm. Hi. Thanks for holding. The attorney is actually in a meeting with another client right now. Can I take a message for you and they can call back when they are free? Hangs up phone, goes back to talking to attorney who didn't want to talk to phone person. I work in a body shop and they were telling me a story of when they received a car from a crash. When they get a new car they always clean it first while washing out the blood they found a nose. They didn't really try to hide it, but they never told any customers that it was in the next room. Cole's Chapters Indigo. It is less expensive to tear off the front and back cover of a pocket paperback novel and send it back to the publisher for a fund, rather than to send the whole book or sell at a reduced cost. Why this is bad: employees must destroy the rest of the book so it is no longer readable and dispose of them in black garbage bags, or risk being fired. Disposing of these books one night led me to finding a Payless Shoes employee throwing away garbage bags full of shoes that did not sell. Employees must cut out the tongue of the shoe so they are not usable should someone find them.